Good evening, and welcome to the 2021 Emerging Voices Fellowship final reading. My name is Jared Jackson, and I'm the Literary Programs Manager in the New York office at PEN America. With support from Jenise, PEN America's LA Program Manager, it's been my honor to oversee the 2021 Emerging Voices Fellowship. In case you're unfamiliar with the program, the Emerging Voices Fellowship provides a 5-month immersive mentorship program for early career writers from communities that have been traditionally underrepresented in the publishing world. Through curated one-on-one mentorship and introductions to editors, agents, and publishers, in addition to workshops on editing, marketing, and creating a platform, the 5-month fellowship nurtures creative community, provides a professional skill set, and demystifies the path to publication, with the ultimate goal of diversifying the publishing and media industries. It's been an exciting year for the fellowship, which is now completing its 25th. Among other things, for the first time in its history, the program offered virtually accessible programs, which provided greater opportunities for a broader group of writers. In effect, we received the largest pool of applications in the program's history, making this year's selection of 14 fellows, representing 8 different states across the country, even more impressive. Over the next 2 nights, we will all have the pleasure of listening to them read from their works in progress. Their generous and supportive mentors will introduce each of them and their work, so I'll try to keep my comments brief. This is an exceptional group of writers, and it's been a joy to not only get to know them through their art and as artists, but in the spaces that Jen and I had the privilege of sharing with them on a nearly weekly basis, where they generously offer pieces of themselves. Together, we have all grown, and Jen and I thank them for allowing us to hold space with them and expand not only our community, but our imagination. As you listen to their words, their stories over the next 2 evenings, know that you're engaging with writers, artists, and activists who are exploring, playing with, pushing, and reimagining the possibilities of fiction, creative nonfiction, and poetry, and know that we're all better off for it. This program is made possible by the generous support of the Yvonne and Michael Marsh Family Foundation, the Muriel Palia Foundation, Jamie Wolf, Unlikely Collaborators, and the Los Angeles Department of Cultural Affairs, as well as a community of former Emerging Voices Fellows, instructors, and administrators, and this year's readers and judges, workshop leaders, visiting publishing professionals, and Emerging Voices Fellowship Advisory Board, and the overall champions of this program who have, in different ways, small and large, been committed to providing professional resources to writers seeking creative support to pursue their craft professionally. With that, it's my distinct pleasure to introduce tonight's readers: Stephan, Sebastian Herrera, Jenise Miller, KB, Jerakah Greene, Joanna Hong, Lisa Lee Herrick, and Nefertiti Asante, as well as their mentors, Christina Henriquez, Dana Johnson, Jubi Arriola-Headley, Genevieve Hudson, Patricia Engel, Kalia Yang, and Phillip B Williams. I hope you enjoy.
My name is Christina Henriquez. I'm the author of 3 books, and it has been my great honor during this mentorship to work with Stephan, Sebastian, Herrera. I originally wanted to do this program because I was trying to find a way to give back and to support other writers in the ways that I felt I had been supported throughout my career by fellow writers, by teachers, by editors. And what I didn't anticipate, and what is maybe a little bit cliche to say, but true nonetheless, is how much I would actually get out of the experience in return. I think the first time that Stephan and I got on a Zoom call together, we just instantly connected and realized that we each spoke a very similar language about writing, about the process of creating, and about art. And so I came to really look forward to those calls. And when I had a chance to actually read some of his novel in progress, what I saw on the page was just further confirmation of the things that I had learned about him in our previous conversations, which are that he's an extremely thoughtful writer. He is a writer who is cerebral, a writer who is not afraid to be bold and ambitious. And he's a writer who's very interested in pushing the bounds of what fiction can be, and in the process redefining what fiction looks like. So I personally am really excited for him to finish that novel, for it to make its way into the world one day, so that everybody can see those things that I saw. Because to me, he's one of those writers who is really poised to change the game.
Hello, my name is Stephan Sebastian Herrera. I am a fiction writer living in New York City. I'm going to read an excerpt from the novel I've been working on during this fellowship. But first, I just want to thank everybody at Penn for this really wonderful opportunity. This scene features two characters. One of them is a young, aspiring Mexican writer, and the other is an older Ecuadorian novelist who, as the scene progresses, becomes increasingly paranoid and unsure of his reality. You finished your book. Maybe you'll buy a gun. ¿Qué? You say que vas a comprar una pistola, carajo. ¿Para qué? Para matar la literatura, chamaquito. You make a gun out of your finger and thumb and strike a marksman's pose, double-handed grip, legs spread. The chamaco suggests the two of you grab a beer instead. You say sure, even though you can't stand the smell of beer. You make a plan then to decry the cult of beer, and with your good eye, the eye of certitude, you will challenge anyone in the bar to refute you. You will let the chamaco buy the first round, and you will endure the pointless bottled misery that is beer, which is for breeding fruit flies, for pissing all night. You kill time and happiness with a beer. And for you, there's little time left to kill. And joy has all but abandoned your life. So when the boy writer least expects it, before either of you have finished burping, the bartender will set down 2 glasses of top-shelf tequila or mezcal. Tequila for the chamaco, mezcal for you, because the mezcal here is more expensive than the tequila, with 2 unwashed, poorly sliced half-moons of lime hacked on the edge of the glasses, and the rest of the night will go on like this, the beer stopping and the tequila persisting. And when the chamaco can put aside all reason, as you've learnt to do long ago when you stopped being a wambra and became a viejo, because there is no in-between, in a single night you've gone from smooth and vibrant to unrecognizably worn, like you're wearing a Halloween mask of your own face, like a cruel pair of fingers has pinched every inch of your skin, which hangs like a frown, like you are somebody's walking frown, agitated, wrinkled like dirty sheets, wincing. Everything makes you wince. The world is a million pairs of fingers pinching you as you pass through it. That's why you've abandoned all reason in it, like the chamaco when he's had enough second-best liquor. Then you will say, let's go out for a cigarette, and it will be night, the time at which endings are written, and that is when you'll buy a gun and shoot this book right between the eyes. But you're a detective, not a novelist, and of the two, it's detectives who carry guns. As you rise from your stool, the chamaco places your hat on his head, and for a moment you think he's the detective and not someone who still believes in literature. Shit, you think. He's got you. The Mexican's got you. He's got the whole pinche place surrounded, it seems. But then you remember it's your hat he's wearing. Nice try, you think. Mira, chamaco, you say with a monstrous smile like a slobbering dog. You pat him on the back and try to remember his name. You know him from somewhere. Maybe he was a student of yours. There are so many faces lost in time, lost in books. Big, small, dumb, brilliant, sweet, and forgettable books. Mira, chamaco, you say again, correcting your smile so that you look normal, so that the cop doesn't know you're onto him. No, you're the detective, huevon, you say to yourself. Right, you're the pig, not him, you answer. Mira, chamaco, you say a third time, smiling again so that you look like a dog, so that chamaco doesn't know you're actually a pig. Mira, chamaco, that third and final time. Let's go out for a smoke. You've smoked, no? See, he says. He only smokes when he's around other writers, but he's only ever around other writers. You do know him. He steps outside ahead of you, and as the door swings shut, you see the bartender waving his arms, upset, presumably, that you did not pay the tab. So you turn around, and through the dirty window that distorts the whole place, you mouth shh and make the universal gesture of smoking. And it seems to calm him down, which is good because you have no intention of paying the bill, because cops don't need to pay for shit. And besides, they don't carry cash. They don't need cash. They have guns in their pants, which is much better than cash. And as the chamaco, this young writer, this first-rate nobody, this kid you almost recognize but whose name has slipped through your fingers along with so many other names and faces. And faces, like names, are like words. They need to be written down so they are not forgotten. And you think, will he write your face so that it will be remembered? Sadly, no. Because as the young writer turns his back to light a cigarette in the gently persisting rain, you are reaching for the gun tucked into your pants, but you don't find a gun in there. And you think, oh shit, he was the cop after all, and he got you, Webon. But all in all, great detective work. Seriously, you gotta hand it to him. He really had you. He got you thinking you were armed. You could have sworn you were too, but it turns out you're not. Not unless, of course, you are, which is always a possibility in these situations, in fiction. They always save surprises for the end, right? No shit, you answer, but this isn't fiction. This is life or death, and you're not gonna go quietly. The suspect never goes quietly, and the suspect is always armed, right? Sure, you say. So you search again for the gun, but this time in your underwear, where the pig would least expect it. But all you feel is a hot, slightly itchy ass, i.e. your hot and slightly itchy ass, it seems. So as a chamaco flicks his lighter, over and over to no avail, you are searching every nook and cranny in your ass, which only makes it hotter, though slightly less itchy. He flicks and flicks, you dig and dig, but no gun, only ass. So you check elsewhere, you check everywhere, and like that, you find it. Ha ha ha, you think, you fantastic huevon. You had it all along. Y este pinche chamaquito is fucking dead. He's done. His ass is grass, as they say. And you draw your little pistol and aim it at the kid, smiling like a slobbering dog, or a shuddering wolf, or a wet pig of the NYPD, or a thug, or a bartender, or a gun. Yes, you smile like a shiny American gun, which you aim at the center of the young writer's back. You aim without aiming and fire. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dana Johnson, and I am so pleased to introduce Jenise Miller this evening. One of the reasons I love being a PEN America mentor, and this is my third time now, is that I'm always profoundly educated by the writers I'm selected to work with. I learn so much about their unique perspectives through their writing, through which my own world and perspectives are expanded. I'm called a mentor, but the relationship between mentor and mentee in this context of writing has a symbiotic quality to it. We read our mentees' work and we have conversations with them during which we hope we're being helpful in demystifying the writing world. But the relationship between mentor and mentee, for me, instills deep empathy and a desire to know more about worlds and people I might otherwise not know about. PEN America mentees remind us how urgent it is to foster such stories and foster the brilliant writers who write them. Working with Jenise, I've had the honor of this privilege again. Jenise writes about family, particularly her Panamanian family and roots. She asks her readers to consider what makes family, to consider the nuances and legacy of immigration, the distance between family that arises from such immigration, as well as the unbreakable bonds. Jenise's work also interrogates the erasure of history, particularly Black Panamanian history. My favorite of Jenise's writing explores the legacy of her grandfather, who helped to build the Panama Canal, labor of Black Panamanians that remains unrecognized. She asks us through her writing to understand and to know, to truly see, and to honor the work, the labor that we've all benefited from. And now, we will all have the pleasure and the benefit of Jenise's writing as she reads some of her outstanding work.
Hi, my name is Jenise Miller, and I'm from Compton, California. I've had the honor of being a fellow in creative nonfiction and working with Dana Johnson as my mentor. I am grateful to my mentor, to my fellow writers, the staff, and everyone who put in the time and work to make the fellowship happen this year. For this reading, I will be reading an excerpt from an essay entitled Labor of Memory. My search led me to the United States Panama Canal Archives, primarily a record of labor. The Panama Canal Project contracted a mostly Black West Indian labor force to construct it and this new country, Panama. It employed my great-grandfathers, who would not be recognized as citizens of the United States or Panama, and lived in segregated sections of the Canal Zone, as documented by the 1930 and 1940 U.S. Census. The 1930 census lists my grandfather as a company employee in the position of boy. He was 13 years old. In the archives, I found a short article written in 1973 about my grandfather. By that time, he was no longer a boy, but captain of his own tugboat, responsible for pulling large barges through the canal. The article was printed in the newspaper, The Panama Canal Spillway, which featured important news about canal workers in separate English and Spanish issues. The front page of the English issue read, "Tug operator is cited for saving life." The English version could be clipped with no visual representation of that tug operator, my grandfather. Only the Spanish version deemed the act worthy of a photo of him receiving an award for saving someone from drowning near the canal. In fact, no photos of Black workers, heroes or otherwise, appeared in the English version of the newspaper. The paper had more fidelity to preserving its ideals of who deserved to be where than it did to presenting the full story. My grandfather's primary language was English, or patois, of his parents. I must read the Spanish version to ascertain the details, all written in the language that was neither his first nor that of his father from Antigua, or his mother from St. Lucia, or his son, my father, born in the Canal Zone and held back a grade because he also did not speak Spanish. My father did not know that his father saved someone's life. Instead, he repeated to me how he and his brother would find their father at his hangout spot, a local bar, on payday and ask him for money. That their father would shout to the barkeeper, "Hey, those are my sons, let them in." And my grandfather would give them money that he did not give to their mother. That my father cobbled together how to be a father from his own there, but not always there, father. Does this man deserve honor or a monument or be made one by the granddaughter who never knew him? We are forced to contend with the imperfections, faults, complications that question people like my grandfather, as if the men with many monuments raised in their honor were infallible, untarnished as the marble they've etched themselves in. Like history, one version of the story denied the images of Black Panama Canal workers' contributions, day-to-day accomplishments, and even heroics. As a descendant of people who did not receive proper compensation or credit for their physical labor, I look to the past to make space and build the world that they deserved. This is the true labor, the labor of memory, that I find the portraits and history that honor them and their labor and reject any silence that the archive or its missing pieces would have me inherit. It is a futuristic labor, imagining all that is ours and should have been theirs. Thank you.
Hi, y'all. My name is Jubi Arriola-Headley. I'm a poet and a storyteller, and it's my great honor to introduce you to the poet KB. Or rather, let KB's own brilliant words do the heavy lifting this evening. One of my favorite poems by KB is called After the 30th Play of Montero, Call Me By Your Name. Here's how it begins. I am my wildest dream, and that's enough, said the toddler I'm still nursing in my head. I'm raising myself to be as meek as a snake, choking out the nearest rodent for lunch. Sit with those words for a moment. In a world that refuses to make space for so many of us, what does it mean to speak our rage or to give voice to our resistance? They say my role in this partnership is to be KB's mentor, and I was exceedingly honored by that ask, but mentorship sometimes to some people implies a one-way, one-directional relationship where a thing is offered and received, but I have learned so much from KB in these short months. I'm constantly stunned by their lyric virtuosity, the way they wield code and vernacular like a switchblade. I love the way they push me to use and push my own language. I feel like I'm constantly riding the crest of their relentless refusal to be unseen and unheard. Let's listen to KB's words again for one more moment. Yes, that means white supremacy needs to ease its way out of my veins. I'm wringing mine and my bloodline dry of it. Hear that? That's not a request. That's not an appeal. Some mornings we wake up ready. KB stays ready. Let me stop talking now and make space for the storyteller, the mighty blaze that is KB. Y'all better make space too. They ain't asking.
What up, what up? This is KB, pronouns they and them, and I'm in the poetry cohort of the PEN America Emerging Writers Fellowship 2021. Thanks so much to PEN America's staff and supporters for making this fellowship possible for me and my amazing cohort. Today I'll be reading you 3 poems, one of which is called Bare Minimum or To-Do List for White America. Clean up after yourself. Pick up that book, child. You still got a good back. Seek therapy. Don't kill the creative in you. Don't kill black people. Get a job, one that doesn't make you the dictator. Take back 400 years of over-contested leadership. Give thanks to the futures you've stolen. Give back what your people call inheritance. Wash your hands. Cut the grass. Don't kill Asian women. Don't have what you call bad days. Don't think that due to fear planted in the roots of your kin, you can't get rid of yourself today. Get a job. One that doesn't require blood from me. I'm low on iron and desire to tell you once again. Quit playing. There's a puddle of blood you shoved into the corner. There's a mop and my people ringed into a bucket of waste. I'll wait. Cool. And the next one is called Sexting at the Gynecologist. A camera is what makes it porn, right? I Google as everyone in the reception area wonders what husband is waiting for his wife. Between my legs is a national treasure, or at least what gives Republicans wet dreams during seasons of political theater. Can I carry that energy into a pose that reads digital exchange of chemistry? The tiny bathroom mirror says yes. My lover opens the text that some other kind of camera enters the canal that never wanted this. The same way Republicans never want their donors to think they care about trans people. If I blurred the silhouette, is this still considered erotica? I think so, said the nurse, answering a separate question about my womb. If cameras create the crime, then I declare my pants untenable by white people unless they're doing routine checkups in a doctor's office. At least here, the lobby thinks I'm offering moral support. And in a way, T in a back rub says everything's okay just as much as my lover. Eyes spangled when I show her exactly what Dan Patrick hates. All right. The last one is called SB number 8, Erasure. So there will be pauses throughout this poem because on the text, on the page, it's literally me kind of like erasing remnants of a political document in order to create a poem. Be it enacted by the legislature of the state of Texas. This act shall criminalize abortion. Health and safety is amended as follows. Fetal heartbeat means the human is carrying calculated judgment. Unborn child means a legislative reach. Texas has compelling interest in protecting the health of the unborn child. To make an informed choice is not appropriate. A pregnant person is prohibited. A physician may not knowingly be a physician. This section prohibits abortion. Compliance with this shall make the womb a medical emergency. This subchapter does not recognize a right to abortion. This subchapter may authorize the prosecution of a womb. A political subdivision prohibiting abortion is the law of this state. Private civil actions may be threatened by any person, except an officer of a state, of a local government or entity, bringing a civil action against any person who performs, induces, aids, or abets an abortion. This court shall award $10,000 for each civil practice. This section is ignorance. This subchapter unconstitutional. A defendant's abortion is affirmative. A person performing or inducing the abortion is affirmative. This state may not intervene in this procedure. Abortion is the rights of people seeking an abortion. Are relief, are constitutional, and valid, 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 valid. Thank you so much again for listening, and I appreciate everybody watching. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Genevieve Hudson, and I am the author of the novel Boys of Alabama and the short story collection Pretend We Live Here. It was an honor to be asked by PEN America to be a mentor for their Emerging Voices Fellowship. My own writing journey has been shaped so profoundly by the mentors, the writers, and the teachers in my life that took the time to have deep and meaningful conversations with me about my work and the legacy of writing that I was a part of and contributing to, by the people who took me and my work seriously, the people who believed in me. In my formal education, I never had a writing instructor or mentor who was queer, or who wrote about queer themes. It wasn't until much later that I finally took a workshop with a queer writer who I felt understood in an embodied, somatic, and experiential way the subject matter that I was writing about. It became personal, and the effects on my writing were profound. I didn't know how important that would be to me until I had it. I've been lucky enough to work with Jerakah Greene over the last many months and get to know their writing. Jerakah has an energy and enthusiasm on and off the page that is so fresh and curious and captivating. They write masterful sentences that make me stop and marvel at what language can do. Jerakah writes about Tulsa, their hometown, and brings its beauty to life on the page. They explore issues of queerness as it relates to place, to family, to inheritance, and it has been a joy to read their work and see their process. I know that this is the beginning of a great and storied career for them, and I feel very fortunate to be part of their journey, and I appreciate the opportunity to see where this writing journey takes you, Jerakah. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Jerakah Greene. I am a fiction writer from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I am reading an untitled scene from my novel in progress. I dug my hands into the red dirt, put my fingers against the pulse of the earth, heard her heaving. Our front yard was small, the grass tough and often yellowed from the hot southern sun, but it was still spring. It had been raining a lot, too much, my mother said. The river that cut through town like a vein was close to overflowing, swallowing the mansions nestled on one side and the refinery on the other. It seemed like it was about to let up long enough for my mother to plant her elephant ears, a forsythia bush, some snake plants. But first, garden maintenance. If there was one thing she was good at, it was gardening. It seemed too gentle a hobby for my mother, whose blue-veined fingers tore into everything they touched. But when my mother gardened, it wasn't gentle. She gardened violently. The mother-in-law's tongues had overgrown from the rain, their roots gnarled and clutching at each other. My mother took a shovel and hacked at them, beat them to a pulp, wrenched them apart. I rolled over onto my back, a small pile of dirt in each palm, an offering. I was offering gentleness, trying to make up for what my mother lacked. Here, Mother Earth, take this, your own flesh, while my mother rips you to shreds. But it was my mother who had the green thumb, whose violent hacking would yield elephant ears that swayed 10 feet high, snake plants that multiplied like rabbits, all this green that shielded our big blue house from the big wide world. None of it would matter when the Arkansas River swelled and swelled and swelled. The local weather station predicted a record number of tornadoes in northeastern Oklahoma. They predicted the same last year, the year before. Each spring, we fortified the yard with towering green plants, and each spring, we picked up their broken limbs after the wind carried them down the road. It was getting bad, as bad as they said it would. And yet, garden maintenance. I was too old to be unhelpful, she often said, but I was scared to get my hands near the sharp, rusted edge of the shovel as it sliced through thick roots when she put her weight down, roots as thick as my pointer finger. Even now, so close to graduating high school and leaving the big blue house behind, I couldn't bring myself to unearth the carcasses of canna lilies in the flower bed and help my mother plant new ones. Anything I planted was dug up by raccoons the night of, or never grew an inch. Maybe I was too gentle. My mother's dyed red hair ran when it got too hot. Beads of sweat ran down her temples, red as blood. It looked like she'd taken the shovel to her own head, like she was walking around the garden with her brains gushing down into her green eyes. Do you like gardening? She didn't hear me. Dirt and dye lodged in her ears. I lifted my head from the ground. I asked again. Mama, I said, louder this time, do you like gardening? She started, like I'd shaken her from a trance, and looked down at the mess she'd made. In the grass before her lay a battlefield littered with corpses, clumps of dirt, shredded weeds, crushed yellow petals. I don't know, she said. I guess it's a good distraction. From what I wanted to ask, but I already knew. We had been waiting all week for the doctor to call. Any day now, any second. I hadn't worn my binder in days out of respect. Here I was, ready to lop off my breasts with a razor, ready to beg someone to take them from me, and my mother might not have a choice. I held the guilt in my stomach like it was its own tumor, doubling in size each time I wished I could take her place. Guilt because I wanted to swap our places to save her, and also because I would have done anything to get myself under that knife. You look like you could use a distraction too, my mother said pointedly, and tossed the trowel to the ground by my thigh. I heaved myself up from the grass and plunged my hands into the cool dirt she'd unearthed. I couldn't get as violent as she did, no matter how hard I hacked at the tangle of roots, but she watched, nodded, wiped blood from her brow. So the world was imploding all over, mostly from the weather, partly from my jealousy and my mother's bitter heart. I love you, Mama, I said. She squinted at me through the red sweat in her eyes. Go grab the other bag of potting soil from the back, she said. I wiped my hands on my thighs and headed for the backyard. The sounds of her angry gardening resumed. Roots crunched and roots bled, and we waited for something to happen. I don't know what, just something. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patricia Engel. I'm the author of 4 works of fiction. It has been my honor and pleasure to serve as a mentor in the PEN Emerging Voices program and to work with Joanna Hong, who is an astonishing talent. Over the past several months, I've looked forward to our conversations and our correspondence, our chats, her thoughtfulness and her questions that interrogate not only craft and technique, but the act of writing itself. She has made me consider my own journey as an artist alongside hers, and I'm grateful to have had the experience through this program to learn from her as well. I had the privilege of reading a portion of Joanna's novel in progress, Mother Tongue, which is an exploration of the themes that fascinate and obsess us both, transnationalism and intergenerational trauma. Joanna describes both a discovery and a reckoning between mother and daughter that spans continents and decades. Her language is elegant, evocative, direct, and moving without being overly sentimental. I was stunned by the scope of her story, yet its intimacy and its tender, quiet moments amid emotional chaos and political turmoil. Joanna's own experience is one of a writer who has put down roots in many places and uses the experience of what others might consider displacement as the inverse, a claim to a multitude of experiences and of selves. Her work is courageous and her talent is explosive. I'm so honored to have been a part of Joanna's journey at this stage in her career, and I'm so excited to witness what is to come for her when her novel finds its readers.
Hello, I'm Joanna Hong, currently a fellow in fiction and living in Los Angeles, where I'm from. Today I'll be reading for you an excerpt from my novel titled Mother Tongue. And thank you very much for tuning in. She thought of her mother, whether or not she'd ever really wished to run her own restaurant, or if there had been other aspirations. There weren't many, if any, choices at all after the war from what she had known. There was only survival, and those who were lucky enough to have found cunning ways to make it less gruesome for themselves. Some families left for places as far as Brazil for fear of another war or invasion erupting during their sleep, or during an ordinary afternoon, like an undetonated landmine, staring at the cherry blossoms one moment, and then at an explosion that turned their petals into shrapnel. There were 2 historical events that Sue associated with her parents, the colonization and the war. Sue heard stories from Minsigani at the restaurant that there were women her mother knew when she was young who were forced into sexual slavery during the Japanese colonization, though nobody specified names. The military brothels merciless to their bodies when they were girls. They learned words they would never forget, words that made them doubt they would one day become women. Some denied their pasts, Some destroyed them and themselves. And then Japan surrendered in World War II in 1945. Korea was divided into latitudes, north and south, the Russians and the Americans, the Northern Soviet Civil Administration, the Southern United States Army military government in Korea. Sue's father only spoke once of his parents and siblings up north in Pyongyang, who he hadn't seen since the outbreak of the war in 1950. During an ordinary afternoon, he was with a childhood friend, Chaeyoung, when they were chased across the river by Chaeyoung's father's employees who were suddenly wielding rifles. An uprising was born. Chaeyoung was shot in the back while Sue's father tumbled into the river and held his breath underwater, confused. He surfaced finally when he stopped seeing the bullets flying above him as dragonflies. Sue's father kept running south and the Korean War had begun. He couldn't turn back. Many couldn't. They'd be shot and killed. The fate of the rabbit-shaped peninsula hinging on a line drawn by the West, he heard. An armistice agreement made, but no peace treaty signed. Like an explosion in the air, but whose shrapnel hadn't yet landed for us to feel the actual aftermath, Sue's father would say, stunned in the sky. And then the American Army barracks in the south and the poor girls there and their broken bodies, he mentioned to Sue when he was drunk. This was when her mother covered Sue's ears with warm, calloused hands. The mystery of her parents' pasts were left to be unfinished stories, like an explosion in the air, whose shrapnel hadn't yet landed, stunned in the sky, with barely any traces to conjure a few blurry scenes in smeared smoky hues. There was no talk of their upbringings, though in Sue's mind, her parents were always two of the lucky ones. They had lived, they had survived, they were healthy, but they'd suffered. They still suffered in ways she would never know, recorded only in one's memory, or lost in it, like her father's dead friend Chaeyoung or the girls stolen as sex slaves who her mother once knew. She recalled Minsugani's parents and their poverty and poor health. Recently, Minsugani's mother had turned to Catholicism after meeting an American missionary when she was out shopping for ginseng at the Shijang. This encounter was much to Minsugani's father's ambivalence, though he couldn't really do anything about it because of his sickly state. Sue would hear Minsugani share how every night her mother would massage her crimson glassy prayer beads draped around her wrists with her age-crackled hands, desperate for some sort of miracle, breathing into the tiny globes of hope or bloodshed. She so yearned to believe in something. When Sue asked her what type of miracle she was praying for, Minsugani shook her head in exhaustion and said she didn't know. Any miracle would do. Sue had to look away upon hearing this, thinking of what Minchiropa would have wanted to achieve in this life. But maybe it dawned on her, maybe he already had. Maybe he too was one of the lucky ones in that sense, to have lived doing what he loved, though she had no idea what his relationship with his own parents had been, if he had had a lover or if he had believed in an afterlife. Did his mother now believe he was in heaven? Maybe his life had been his parents' miracle, but they just didn't know it. An image of her own father flickered across her mind. Her father running around Busan, drunk in his floppy suit, loose and gangly, meeting controversial friends for drinks and arguing red-faced with other businessmen on the Rancor street, always eager to depend on turbulent social connections for practical solutions. She knew that her father did not believe in miracles, but she also knew that he was desperate enough to accept them if they were to ever come true. A thirsty boy running in circles around a well. In her generation, she was told that she shouldn't just survive, but thrive. But what if someone surviving was another person's thriving? She cleared her throat to speak again. Some people are born into situations they cannot control.
Hello everyone. My name is Kalia Yang. I'm a Hmong American author. Today I'm coming to you from the Twin Cities. I'm so happy because I get to introduce you to another fellow Hmong American writer, Lisa Lee Herrick. Lisa has an incredible bio and I'll read from that shortly, but I want to talk about the experience of getting to work with her for the last months because of the 2021 PEN America Emerging Voices Fellowship. In the last several months, Lisa and I have had an opportunity to talk about the personal and the political, to talk about the past, but also to talk about the future of what Hmong can look like in literary America. The difference of the stories coming forth from the many different places and states that we come from, from the hearts and the minds of women who maybe the world may see as more similar than different, but the incredible depth of talent that we know exists within ourselves and each other, within the young ones coming along. It has been an incredible gift for me. And today, you will experience some of that gift. Lisa Lee Herrick is a second-generation Hmong American writer, artist, and media specialist. Lisa helped produce the film The Hmong and the Secret War, now available on pbs.org. She is a former television executive, award-nominated news journalist, and a founding member of the Lit Hop Literary Festival. Her essays and illustrations have been featured on or are forthcoming from The Rumpus, Food 52, The Normal School, and others. Lisa is writing a family memoir about the inheritance and the aftermath of trauma, a cookbook, and 2 graphic novels. Please welcome Lisa Lee Herrick.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us for this reading. My name is Lisa Lee Herrick, and I am a Hmong American writer based in Fresno, California, and one of this year's PEN Emerging Voices Fellows in Creative Nonfiction. I'd like to thank PEN America for giving me this incredible opportunity to really expand my repertoire, and also for advocating for the freedom to write for writers of all levels, whether established or emerging, like myself. And I'd like to thank my husband Lee for always helping me dream bigger. Today, I'm going to read for you an excerpt from my essay, The Joy of Being a Bad Asian. The Joy of Being a Bad Asian. I am a huge disappointment to my parents. There, I said it. But it's not because I didn't become a lawyer or a doctor, an accountant, a pharmacist, nurse, heck, not even a dental assistant after university. And it's not because I've dyed my hair every neon shade and pierced a few places, or because I joined a vegan hippie commune and did some Burning Man stuff. It's not because I cut weekend Hmong school, didn't go to church, and seriously considered getting a full back tattoo in my 20s. It's not even because I quit my job in television to become something even more impractical, such as a full-time writer and artist. No, I am a huge disappointment because I'm nothing that they could have ever imagined in their future. Even now, nearly 40 years later, I still just can't quite explain who I am to my parents, or why I'm compelled to share my messy thoughts out loud. You see, my parents are all about flying under the radar. They fled the communist regime and subsequent genocide in Laos during the 1970s and arrived in the United States as teenage refugees protected by both the 1965 Immigration and Nationality Act and the 1975 Indochina Migration and Refugee Assistance Act. They skipped the 60s entirely and missed the whole context of the civil rights movement. And, you know, free love and rock and roll, and skipped straight to disco and bell-bottoms. They didn't know that Asian immigrants and American-born Asians had been barred from U.S. citizenship until 1952. My parents couldn't imagine protesting against the state without being inevitably crushed by it. My parents had never even met an American who wasn't a soldier until they landed here. America wasn't so much the land of opportunity or the great society touted by Presidents John F. Kennedy and Lyndon B. Johnson, a superior republic compared to communist nations through the orthodox ideals of democracy, free markets, and the all-American dollar. Then it was a bomb shelter for the shrapnel of their blasted lives, a safe place to hide indefinitely. In America, my parents wanted to disappear. And we did, in a way. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, my name is Phillip B Williams. I am a poetry mentor for the PEN Emerging Voices Fellowship. I am the author of 2 books of poetry, Thief in the Interior from Alice James Books and Mutiny from Penguin Poetry. I am honored to be the mentor for Nefertiti Asante, whose work has taught me so much about care for not only the craft of poetry, but the communities for which we write. In their work, Nefertiti has rendered the voices of children, particularly young Black girls, with incredible care, precision, musicality, maturity, and an understanding of what these young girls really care about in ways that I've not ever read before. I am so honored and humbled to read their work and to read the various forms and hear the different sonic textures that she gives to these voices, who are also exploring not just childlike things, but topics that may seem very adult, but are part of the experiences that Black young girls go through. And we also spoke about what does it mean to be a poet in the world? Who are we writing for? What is the difference between a chapbook and a full-length collection? How do we go about getting that work into the world? There's impeccable consideration for how to be someone who is a caretaker for their own work and for the people who really make up the brunt of the creative characteristics in their poetry. So I've been honored, and I'm totally humbled and happy to have gotten the opportunity to work with Nefertiti. This is a voice that is so exciting and just ready to share this work. It was pretty much, publishable by the time I got the sample. So yeah, if anything, I should be thanking Nefertiti Asante for allowing me, for choosing me to work with them. It's been a joy and an honor. Thank you.
Hello, I am Nefertiti Asante. I'm originally from the Bronx, New York, and I currently reside in Oakland, California. I am a poet and fellow with 2021 PEN America Emerging Voices. Have a lot of gratitude for everyone who has helped keep this train moving. Shouts out to Jared and Jen, Roya Marsh, KB, Adrian, Kimberly, and my mentor, Phillip B Williams, who's been really gracious with time and guidance and wisdom, and I'm grateful for everyone who's just made this possible, including the visiting authors, editors, folks in the publishing world. Thank you all. So I will be sharing a piece inspired by Star Trek, because that's what I've been watching a lot of during the pandemic. On this ship, the crew is the only constant when even the fuel gets replaced. A child of any race walks barefoot on board and leaves tomorrow. The grown-ups grow up surprised by the sound of children, tiny dancing ghosts giggling in the machine. A mechanized crew cracks smiles the width of an elevator seam. Daylight leaks nowhere, everywhere. There are stars. Mercury does not rise with the heat of a noble gas. The science saves lives here. The religion has a finger pointed toward a warped North Star. When it kisses the thumb, it snaps to birth a new dimension running parallel to eternal life. Life on this ship above the clouds. The captain's log catches fire and words burn with the fever of alien script. Who authors this ship's manifest? Who recognizes the flag and its colors planted deep in weathered soil? Sometimes the mothers on the ship float together back to back. They send messages circling and uncircling, curling and uncurling through their spines against each other. Children live outside their mothers' bodies, outside their mothers' orbits. They share customs, not borders. On this ship, only the voyage is home. So the final piece I'm going to share is entitled Dreaming of Rest. Dreaming of rest, a deep rest, rubbing shea butter into crackling souls, welcoming rest. Dreaming of rest, a blood rest, quieting on a walk between the moon-caressed trees. A bird is sleeping, a cicada is dreaming awake, dreaming of rest. Green with promise, blue with possibility. A child claps their hands while dreaming of rest on the chest of a gentle guardian, dreaming of rest, a slow breeze gathering jasmine and a bouquet of wild strawberries in the wind. The wind is also dreaming of rest as it gathers its skirts in the air above an ocean at rest. The sea salt is dreaming of rest. Small bubbles brush the cheek of a deep sea dweller, dreaming of rest. Each perfect circle is a wish to dissolve into come true. Kick up sand clouds, dreaming of rest. Hair circling, curling against a satin pillow case filled with floating feathers, rest levitating in a dream where the body is bigger and spreading and sprawling. The body scars heal in real time. Rest has a way of regenerating a generation of cells with no echo of prison or labor. Dreaming of rest swivels the neck in and out of Sankofa position. The way forward takes hands and reverence. Dreaming of rest, a prayer breaks the surface tension and pours itself over the heads, sprouting from earth seeds. A strong back is only as strong as what supports its dream of rest. Against a doubling over, bones as fragile as they are white, dreaming of rest, places fingers at the warrior's temple, and the rubbing softens the brow. Dreaming of rest while resting, lets the loop devour itself, fill itself with its own goodness. A delicious relief rests on the tongue, a muscle that dreams of rest between moving, grateful for movement. Dreaming of rest is a gift of the imagination, unsullied by harm. Dreaming of rest is what comes after. Dreaming of rest leaves behind what desires to be left. Dreaming of rest, herald the body into relations with source, hold the body, heal the body. Dreaming of rest, deliver the body to the source. Dreaming of rest as rest dreams of you. Thank you.
Hello again. That concludes our evening. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And again, a deep and sincere congratulations and thank you to tonight's readers and their mentors and everyone involved in supporting this program. The 2022 application period will open at the top of the year on January 1st. More information on that will be coming soon, but until then, we wish you a great rest of your evening and the year. Thank you.